Hello everyone, welcome to our channel, the Digital Institute of Computing Technology. In this presentation, we will have discussion on the topic how to design a simple program to manage employee information and employee management system. Let's try to develop a simple program that manages employee information for an organization. Let's assume until now that this organization used to maintain the employee information using a huge diary or file. Each page of this file or diary had information about one employee. Now suppose you want to find the details of a particular employee, or say you want to find a list of employees who matches a particular criteria, like employees age is less than 30 and employees number of years of experience is greater than 4, because they have to be assigned to a particular task. So how will you achieve this task? Take the file or diary and turn page by page to get the ID, name and other details of the employee. List out the employees that match a particular criteria. That's how manually we can achieve this task. Now let's try to automate this task by writing a simple program to maintain employee information and list employees based on a particular criteria. Now see, the purpose of this diary was to remember the data permanently, right? So here comes the need of a database or a file system. We can remember the data permanently digitally using a file system or a database. Now, to list the employees based on a particular criteria, we can open the file and scan record by record for a match and list out the employees who matches the criteria, and maybe write it down on a piece of paper. So you have achieved your task. This is one level of improvement. Now, if you want to automate this manual search process, you can write a simple program. Now the data is present in the files or the database in the disk, right? For a program to process this data, which is present on the file or the database, it has to be downloaded from the disk and stored in the RAM. So the list of records which are present in the disk have to be brought into the RAM and stored as a list of records. Here comes the need to create the complex variable, which is nothing but structure, which can hold the information of these records. Structures can hold the record data, details such as ID, name, age, experience, skill set, etc. of the employees. Here is the EMP structure to represent the complex variable employee record in the system. Struct EMP, it has the following members: ID, name, age, experience, and skills. Let's define this structure in the file called utype.h and use this file wherever this structure is needed. Now, the program needs to download the data from the disk. Right. So for this, it has to run a loop to copy the records from the disk into the list of the EMP structure. Right. So one loop is needed to copy all the records from the disk into the RAM. In the RAM, the record is represented using the structure. To simplify, let's read from the input device to simulate the download. Now, using this for loop, we will read the data of all the employees into a list of EMP structure. To further simplify, let's assume the size of this list is 10. In reality, you may have thousands of records, but here we are assuming the number of employees is 10. Now, once this loop terminates, the details of all the employees will be available in the EMP list. Now let's traverse this loop once again, but this time to process the data in the list. The second loop. Take one structure at a time and pass this to match criteria function that checks whether this employee matches the required criteria. So this is the definition of the match criteria function. It accepts an employee record, and in the employee record, it checks the data member experience and age. If experience is greater than 4 and age is less than 30, the criteria is matching, so variable match is set to 1. Otherwise, variable match will remain 0, and the match criteria function will return the value of the variable match. If the match criteria function returns 1, the if condition in the main loop will pass and display function will be invoked. So display function is accepting the employee record and it's printing the details of the employee: ID, name, age, experience, and skills as shown. So this is the definition. Now let's review this program. The file utype.h has been included, so we can use the EMP structure. Function match criteria and display are declared before main. Main function defines a list of employees called EMP list and runs the loop twice. The first loop is to read the input and populate the EMP list with the employee details. The second loop is to process the employee list. In the second loop, in every iteration, a record is accessed and checked if it matches the required criteria using the function match criteria. If the required criteria matches, function display is called to display the data. One thing to observe here is that we are using the function match criteria and display for processing, whereas to receive the input from the user did not use any function. So next we will discuss why we did not use any function. Let's try to understand the need of a pointer to a structure by upgrading this program code. As we know, scanf function needs an address of the data member to copy the data. As you can see in this loop, scanf function is accessing the address of the data member. Let's replace the calls to scanf with a getData function. Let's use the function getData to receive the data from the user. The function call will look something like this. Now the input is received in the function getData. Now when we see the definition of the function getData, we can observe that the scanf does not have the address of the EMP members because we pass the EMP record by value to the getData. But we actually need to pass the address of the EMP structure so that the scanf function can access the address of its data members to update the value there. So let's pass the address of EMP structure to getData function. Accordingly, we need to modify the definition of the function getData by using the pointer to employee structure as a parameter. Now as you can see, the scanf in this function has access to the address of the EMP members. we have upgraded the input handling part of this code. Now, let's extend this example program to understand some more concepts. So this is a multi-file program. EMP structure is defined in the file utype.h, and we can use this file wherever this structure is used. Function match criteria, function display, and getData function have been defined in the source file subroutine.c. The header file subroutine.h includes the file utype.h and have declarations for functions match criteria, display, and getData. Another source file stats.c exists in the program, which defines a variable status and has been initialized to a value 1. So let's see the main program. A integer variable glob has been defined. It is allocated memory in the data segment as this is a global variable. Variable status, which is defined in some other file stats.c to be specific, has been declared here as an extra. Inside the main function, we have emp list, which is an array of 10 elements of type emp structure. Its storage class is auto by default, and it is allocated memory in the stack segment. Variable iter has been declared and defined as a register integer. It is allocated memory in the CPU register. Variable local has been defined as a static integer, allocated memory in the dataset. Then we have two loops, one for handling input and another for processing the data. So this example program has more than 90% of the C programming language features that are widely used in any project. Now let's try to compile this multi-file C program. Compilation steps. First, the command is gcc with -c option sub r.c -o option sub r.o. So this will create a object file sub r.o by taking the file sub r.c as input. Here one thing is missing. Sub r.c file uses the declaration of EMP structure. So we need to include the file utype.h in sub r.c file so that it understands the definition of EMP structure. The next command. We will compile stats.c to generate stats.o. Then we'll compile main.c to generate main.o. And finally, we will use min.o, subbar.o, and stats.o to generate our exe file, emp management, emp_mgt. So finally, our executable is ready. Now we can run this executable using the command ./emp_mgt. Now, so this is how you can compile a multi-file C program. Now we can take one task, convert this into a mini project by reading the data from a file or a database instead of reading from the input device. Then for processing part, create an infinite loop in the main to support different operations. Add menu in the infinite loop to support different types of operations. Hope you liked and enjoyed the presentation. Remain connected with us by subscribing to this channel for latest updates on this channel. Thank you.